Hi, so I'm Claire Wessels. I'm your designer for Pratum is the name of my company. Pratum, I got, it's kind of cheesy, but I got it from, it's Latin for prairie. I grew up in central Iowa on a farm, and my father is soil and water conservation commissioner of the county that we live in. So he and my mom and me, we were all very dedicated to taking care of the land and keeping it the way that it was originally. And so we had a big prairie in the front of our house, and all around, like the 2 acres that we have, it's big blue stem, and then we have some of the native grasses and flowers. So my brand, a lot of my inspiration comes from the way that I grew up, being on a farm, living in the middle of a prairie, in the middle of a bunch of cornfields. Iowa is nothing but flatness and agriculture and rural living. So I take a lot of inspiration from the colors and textures that I saw around me. Pretty much everything that I try and do with my brand is as sustainable and economical as possible. So everything that I use is either a natural material or it's dead stock. I try very hard to make sure that I do things in a way that are not going to hurt the earth any worse than the fashion industry already is. So a lot of my materials are going to be different wool fibers, silks, cottons, hemps, linens, things of that nature. Wool is my favorite fiber, so I use that as in a majority of my products, and it's the easiest to work with. It's incredibly available, and a lot of people think that there is animal cruelty involved, but there's not. It's actually better for the animal if they are sheared. Otherwise they can overheat. So, it's a necessary. But it's great. I love working that way. It's kind of harder to be in this industry doing things that way and not producing on a large scale and outsourcing the production. But even if that would be easier and if I would be able to produce faster that way and cheaper that way, I wouldn't feel good about working like that. I wasn't originally planning on going down this route. I had toyed with being a designer, but when I went to school, it was originally going to be for chemical engineering and then potentially architecture, because my father's also an architect. But neither of those things ended up being something that I really loved. And if you ask my parents, they'll tell you that I've been designing clothes since I could hold a pen or a pencil or a crayon or whatever it was. I remember being very little and for Christmas always getting like fashion drawing books or things of that nature. But I don't know, I wasn't ever necessarily planning on starting a company. Everybody who was in fashion school, that was what they wanted to do, but I never really knew what I wanted to do. I just knew that I liked hands-on creativity. But my undergraduate university is primarily an engineering school, so it was a very tech-heavy undergraduate degree. Even though I went to a more technical school, I think that is the best way to have done my undergraduate degree. I loved being able to work with like the engineering school to do 3D printing. A lot of my undergraduate degree, I used different techniques when it came to 3D printing or 3D body scanning. We worked with the engineering college to do nanofibers. My undergrad internship was with a textiles professor who was creating a new type of nanofiber for nursing bras so that you wouldn't get a yeast infection during breastfeeding. So we were working on all of those different types of things, and I ended up really loving that. And during my undergrad, I also got the opportunity to teach. I was a teacher's assistant for many classes, and so it was something that I never would have thought of doing, teaching, but I ended up really loving teaching. And so I decided to continue my education. I would like to go all the way through my PhD so that I can be a professor of design or history eventually. I did my minor in art and fashion and architecture history during my undergraduate. And when I went to go get my master's, I ended up at Drexel University in Philadelphia. It is a degree that is definitely more on the creative side of things. So I definitely got two very different forms of education from both of my degrees, which I think sort of lends itself to who I've become as a designer, with everything that I do being on the more technical side throughout production. I do everything on my own from the ground up, starting with sketching, tech sketching, finding all my sourcing my materials, sourcing them from places that are either dead stock or sustainable, and from there doing the creativity process. And I like to do a lot of hands-on work. So a lot of my materials are going to be, a lot of my products are going to be done by hand. I do a lot of hand sewing, especially when it comes to like silks and things of that nature. I just like being able to have my hands on the material while I'm working with it. And yeah, that is pretty much me as a designer. I'm sort of rolling with it as things go right now. I was never really planning on starting a company, but things just sort of keep happening. Like, I've been given this fantastic opportunity, and I'll have a show this New York Fashion Week for the first time. And as long as the ball keeps rolling, I'm gonna keep rolling with it and see what happens. But for the most part, I'm just sort of enjoying life right now. So thank you all so much for listening to my story. And I'll see you at the studio. So this look is a wool silk blend suiting. It's dead stock material. I try to produce everything that I make in the most sustainable way possible, so it's actually dead stock Armani material. The hat and stole that she has is coyote fur, which is actually, it is more sustainable to use real fur than it is to use faux synthetic furs. So I still try to produce it in a way that is unharmful, and it is a taxidermy pelt. So it didn't hurt anybody by the time that I got to use it. This is one of my favorite pieces. I love the androgyny of it. So this look is a silk chiffon gown, and it is overlaid with a wool and cotton cape that is a jacquard loom knit. On the cape you can see the brand name. The wool or the silk chiffon gown is all done by hand, so every seam and all of the darts are all sewn by hand in order to allow for a material that is this fine to move and flow in the way that it does. Same with the materials. It is all natural fiber or dead stock materials. This look is also going to be made in silk. It is shibori dyed with all natural materials. The dye is made from plant matter. The overcoat is a reminiscent to a Paul Poiret coat from the late 1800s, early 1900s, I believe. It's just a very flowy, easy garment. The idea was for it to feel like very little while it looks like a lot. So this look is a gender-neutral look. The pants are hakama pants, which are a traditional Japanese style of pant, and then the sweater is a hand-crocheted merino wool sweater. It is essentially just two really long rectangles that I then fused together by hand. The sweater was actually crocheted by my mama, so that's a fun little fact about it. Nice, easy wrap pant, very versatile in size. This look is a crepe silk chiffon. It really is a very, very light fabric, so it really flows sort of just like air. The cape that is over top of it is an alpaca wool. I actually got to meet the alpaca that it is from, as I was able to use the felting loom at the farm that she's from. Her name is Pearl. She's a nice little lady. But this piece is just supposed to be like air, like nothingness, a very free garment. This look is a mini dress with a split hem, and over top of it is a felted coat. The coat was wet felted by hand. It's made with a couple of different wool fibers, so you've got merino sheep as well as, I think there's some alpaca in it, but it's a multi-color with brown and black, and then it is hand quilted. The mini dress is done in a silk wool suiting, and it has a split hem so that it is a little bit sexy, but mostly just kind of mob wifey is the vibe. This look is a knit dress with again, a wet felted overcoat. The overcoat has a sheep hide collar, which gives that very big, powerful vibe to it. The dress is knit in wool as well. I believe it is a merino wool knit. It is supposed to accentuate the shape of the body from the hips down. It is just supposed to be kind of a powerful look. Yes. So I'm your designer today. My name is Claire Wessels. I own the company Pratum brand. It is all mine. It's still being built from the ground up at this point in time. I try to do everything with my company as sustainably as possible, which is why everything that I use is either natural fibers or dead stock materials. I want to thank everyone who participated today. You can follow me on @Pratum brand on Instagram, and hopefully pretty soon you will be able to buy some of the things that you've seen today on my website. And I want to thank Behind the Collection Philly for hosting me today. Thank you so much.